So Liverpool wrap up their pre-season tour of Asia with a 3-1 friendly win over Yokohama F Marinos. And I think a lot to like about this game, really. It was a good challenge for Liverpool, which is exactly what you want from your pre-season, and part of the challenge, the biggest part of the challenge really, and I think a big part of the context around the game and the performance in general really was the fact that the pitch was an absolute nightmare. Just very, very bobbly and difficult to control the ball and move the ball at pace, which of course you could say, okay, well, it was exactly the same for both sides, so why did Liverpool in particular struggle with that aspect? But of course, they are the side that wants to dominate the ball. They're going to have more possession. They're the side that needs to move it quickly to disorganise a defence, and so they're the side that's going to struggle with it more. And of course, there are opposition play at that stadium, so they're very much used to the condition of the pitch, aren't they? So that makes it a lot easier for them. And so I think that was a real kind of part of the reason, particularly in the first half, that Liverpool really struggled to get things going. And of course, credit to the opposition as well. I thought they did a good job of making it hard for Liverpool, making that pitch even worse for them in a sense, because it's harder to control the ball when the pitch is wobbly, but also even more so when you've got someone aggressively pressing and closing you down, which Yokohama F Marinos absolutely did in the game, of course. And so, for Liverpool, that was a real test. And then to go behind in the game as well, getting hit on the counter again, and that meant that they had to work to get themselves back in a position to win the game. And as I say, I think in pre-season you want these challenges, you want kind of incentive to work hard, but that was very much given to them. And I thought the way that they rallied around and responded to that was very, very impressive, albeit you don't want to read too much into the pre-season results of the pre-season performances. I still think plenty of encouraging signs there in what Liverpool did in terms of the response and how they grew into the game, got better on the pitch, got more used to it, and played a bit more of their football, particularly going into the second half. So I think Slot will be happy with what he saw from today's performance, and certainly the fact that they won as well, albeit he will be certainly glad, I think, also to get back to Anfield and get back onto that pristine surface as preparations for the new season continue, because of course a bad surface sometimes can be a bit of an injury magnet, and it does make it harder to play your football, as we saw today. Now, there are a few kind of talking points I want to go into as usual here, and I think the best place to start really is with Hugo Ekitike. Now, he was the aspect of this game that we're maybe almost looking forward to. Of course, a Liverpool debut for him just a few days on from him signing, and I think a lot I enjoyed really about his performance here. Obviously only 45 minutes, he was only able to play that much because he hasn't been around it too long, but it was an encouraging 45 minutes. I felt few nice touches around the box, looked very delicate in his touch, good understanding with his teammates in moments as well, which again, he hasn't been training with them very long, so that is encouraging. And I think you always get that with good players, that they seem to have a good understanding with other good players pretty instantaneously. It's not something they need to work on, because they've all got similar idea about how quick football should be played, how you should move, and that's why good players work well with each other. And so I thought I enjoyed a lot of that. And of course, comes quite close to scoring his debut goal, doesn't he, with a cheeky back heel, which is a good save, but really good build up as well. So liked a lot of that. And I think it's worth mentioning the qualities we saw as well, which aren't necessarily about his performance. So the physical qualities are there. He's tall, isn't he? He's absolutely massive, and he looked it on the pitch. He's quick as well, so he's got that pace, which both of those things he's going to need in the Premier League. That's, some players have found that adaptation too tough for those reasons, but he's got those physical qualities to go up against Premier League defenders. And of course, you can combine it with the technical aspects as well. Now, you look at someone, and I don't want to hammer him here, but it's clearly the case. It's not worked out for Darwin Núñez at Liverpool, and he had all the physical qualities to succeed in the Premier League, but not quite the technical ones, which I think Ekitike looks a good mix of both. Very nice in his touch, very sort of soft feet, and I thought we saw a few moments of him like that, and obviously intelligence in his movement as well, which is something Núñez has been criticised for in the past. Moving into good spaces, knowing when to move in, timing of his runs. You just saw little moments of that. It's only 45 minutes, but just little moments of that, which I thought were quite encouraging on that front. And I guess the question for Ekitike now is, can he get in the Community Shield team? I think you saw it already with the starting 11 today. We're moving towards something that's going to be like the starting 11 there, or as close as possible to it. And obviously Ekitike was in that first half 11 today, wasn't he? So, can he get himself, he's only one more friendly, I suppose 2 back-to-back friendlies, but he's only going to probably play in one. Can he play himself into that Community Shield team? Because it's still early days in his Liverpool career, but if he shows sufficient understanding of the defensive aspects he has to fulfill, how his role in the team is, despite not having a full pre-season with Liverpool, can he play himself into that team? It would be really interesting. But I'm, very much looking forward to seeing how he gets on in that regard, because I think Liverpool at the moment, he's the number 1, number 9, isn't he? I guess you've not got Isak. If he does sign or not, we'll see. So there is a spot there for Ekitike to absolutely grab in the meantime. So, can he do it for the Community Shield, or to slot play it safe and maybe go with a Florian Wirtz there in the false 9, maybe even Gakpo, multiple options really in terms of what he does there. So very, very interested to see how that one plays out. And I'm also interested to see how Rio Ngumoha keeps going, because I really, really don't want to keep talking about this kid. I don't want to pile pressure on a 16-year-old, but he just keeps doing crazy things in these pre-season friendlies. He keeps being one of the standout players, and I think it would be absolutely remiss of me to ignore him on that front, really. I mean, he's adding something new in every match, really. So the crazy dribbling is there all the time. His ability to create chances and come inside and out is all there. We've seen that all the way through pre-season. But what we saw again today is just an unbelievably composed finish once he dribbled himself into the key moment. So, I mean, his goal is unbelievable, really. He picks the ball up literally just over the halfway line, drives at the defence. They don't know what to do. They've already seen the fact he can go either way, so they're panicking, backing off. And the moment they touch the box, which is what they teach you, the moment they touch the box, then he cuts, makes sure that he disorganises them. And it's all about, can you produce the quality finish in that moment? And he absolutely did. And he looked very, very delighted. Pre-season friendly or not, he looked really, really pleased to have got that goal. And rightly so, really. I mean, he's just almost a freak of nature that a 16-year-old is coming into a side this good and doing so well. And I think, again, the interesting debate really here is around Liverpool's forward options for me, because obviously there's a growing expectation. I think it's fair to say that Alexander Isak will join the club. Of course, a few things need to fall into place, but he is definitely the main target for Liverpool over the remainder of this window. Now, if he does sign, that gives Liverpool 4 frontline options. They did have 6 last season. Are they going to go with those 4 senior options? And, the argument to do that, of course, beyond the fact that you've spent a load of money on Isak, but the argument to do that is that you've got sufficient options then to back that up. And I think those options have to be maybe Florian Wirtz doing bits in the front line, but also, can Ngumoha really be the backup left winger coming into this season? Is he capable of playing at that level? And I think every time you see him, you think, yes, absolutely. I mean, again, I'd say it's pre-season, but all the things I'm hearing from people who are around the place as well, who are out on the tour, is there's almost been a bit of surprise at how good Ngumoha is amongst the coaching staff, how much he's kicked on. And I know personally that he's worked hard going into this pre-season to make sure he was ready to grasp his opportunity. And all the word I'm hearing from people who are out in Tokyo is that he's absolutely doing that on the training pitch. And, he's showing it when he gets on the pitch as well in the friendlies. So, he just looks like he's close to the first team picture. As I say, you maybe don't want him to be starting every game. He's only 16, 17 very soon. But he looks capable of playing a decent chunk of minutes for me this season. And, that's the decision Arne Slot and Richard Hughes are going to have here, is if we do sign Isak, do we leave it at that? We think that Ngumoha can do enough. He can be an option. We think that Wirtz can, Frimpong can as well on that right-hand side. That's the big question for me. But I think Ngumoha is doing himself absolutely no harm in terms of playing significant minutes next season by playing the way he is at the moment in pre-season, and by all accounts what he's doing in training as well. What a huge talent he is, and very, very excited to see him develop. And speaking about selection dilemmas around transfers as well, I guess I want to talk about Dominik Szoboszlai and the dilemma that he is causing in that central midfield area as well. Now, I saw so many starting 11s after Liverpool had signed Florian Wirtz, sort of imagine starting 11s or strongest Liverpool starting 11 going into this season. And I saw a lot that didn't have Dominik Szoboszlai in them, because the assumption would be that Wirtz comes in to play the 10, Szoboszlai would drop out therefore. But I think he's showing, and he has shown for me over the entirety of pre-season, that you just can't leave him out of this Liverpool team. No matter who has to drop out, he has to be in there because, for starters, he looks good in that deep role, doesn't he? That seems to really suit him. There's a bit less creative impetus on him there because I think he sometimes struggled in terms of that in the 10, didn't he? That there was too much onus on him to create things there, really. And he's not that delicate around the box, but you put him in a deeper role where he's late arriving, gives him a bit more space to operate in. He looks really good there. So that deeper role suits him. He also can fire passes through the lines from that deeper role really nicely. He's got great energy to get around the pitch. And I thought you saw, there's one moment where he stops a counter-attack single-handedly in this game that I just can't imagine Ryan Gravenberch or Alexis McAllister, as good as both those players are and as good as they were last season, I couldn't imagine them getting there because they don't have his pace and his physicality. So what does the manager do? I guess, you always think of Ryan Gravenberch as nailed on to start in that 6th role. For me, Alexis McAllister was Liverpool's best midfielder by a mile last season, despite the unit as a whole working brilliantly. I thought McAllister was the standout. So what do you do? Because you're not dropping Florian Wirtz. He is going to start games in that number 10. So it's a great selection headache for the manager to have, but it's a fascinating one. And I really do not know how he's going to work his way through that because I think Szoboszlai, the energy, as I say, the physicality he gives you, and everything else he's capable of doing. How can you pull him out of the starting 11 given his performances in pre-season? It's really, really interesting. I think if everybody is fit for that Community Shield, you're probably going to see the manager go with his strongest starting 11. What's that going to look like? I haven't got a clue what that central midfield is going to look like, to be completely honest with you. But it's a really, really interesting one. Do let me know your thoughts on that actually in the comments section. And a few more talking points because I thought, I usually do 3, but there was so many kind of positives I thought actually from this game. One of them I want to talk about briefly is Jeremie Frimpong. I think, so much of the talk around him and analysis of his game over the summer has been about, wow, he's so quick, he's lightning, his pace is unbelievable. And sometimes when you hear that, you're a little bit like, oh, this player's, he might be quick, but is he actually good at football? Because, pace alone is not enough, is it, to make you truly elite? But I thought he showed today that he has got real ability. He saw his assist for Nyoni was very, very good. Nice cross into the box. And then also little flicks around the corners, good exchanges. So, putting himself in a position to use his pace, but with, the delicacy of his touch and good, 1-2s and really, really nice use of the ball, really. So, it's not a surprise because Liverpool only sign good footballers, but he's so much more than just that pace for me. And I think today was real evidence of that as well. And I also want to talk about his mate, Florian Wirtz, who obviously got his goal, which is, really, really nice to see, but his general performance as well, I thought was fantastic. That first half was quite tough for Liverpool, but he still looked really, really good again. Just doing all the same things again, lending the ball, great touch, little turns out of pressure. He's just a wonderful footballer, and again, I'm just so excited to see him play for Liverpool over the course of this season because I think he's going to very quickly emerge as pretty much one of the main men in this team, really, which, given some of the players that are around this team, it takes some doing that, but he's that level of quality, and I think he showed it again, and as I say, big moment for him to get that goal, really, and hopefully the first of many. And I also liked Nyoni himself as well. That took some finishing, as good as the cross was from Frimpong, to get your leg up there and to be able to direct it on target is an absolutely brilliant finish. And he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit in this pre-season because of Ngumoha and everything he's been doing and how exciting wingers generally are. Nyoni's kind of in midfield, recycling possession, doing some of the boring things, but I really think he's a fantastic footballer, and again, someone who's going to be in and around it this season. Now, it's extremely competitive in that midfield area, which makes it a little bit tougher for him, but he's been training around the first team for an awful long time. He's absolutely loved by the manager and the coaching staff, so I just think he's got a role to play this season, and I think he's continued to show it in pre-season. And again, he looked really delighted with his goal, as he should be. These young players have taken great leaps in this pre-season tour, and as I say, just very excited to see what they do next. And I think Nyoni will definitely be as much a part of it as Ngumoha is next season. So it's a couple of really, really exciting young talents on Liverpool's hands there. So Going to wrap it up there, and as usual, ask if you can like and subscribe, but of course also leave your comments on all those talking points. I really am interested to know what you're doing about that forward line. I keep asking, but I want to know everyone's thoughts on that, because I really don't know what they're going to do in terms of how many options they're going to end this summer with. Are you happy with Ngumoha being that close to it, or is it too much pressure on him? And of course, central midfield. What is the starting three going into this season for the first? If you had a Champions League final tomorrow, what would that be? I'm really, really fascinated to hear your thoughts on that. So please do like and subscribe. Join me on TikTok at David Lynch LFC. No dances on there, I absolutely promise. And of course, it's the Athletic game coming up soon, so very much looking forward to getting back to Anfield for that. And of course, I'm sure I'll be back for a transfer update soon as well. So see you guys very soon.